with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is living life at cause rather than effect. So we're going to talk about victimhood and the path out of victimhood. And it should be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present, right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you joining us this morning, and welcome to everyone else who's with us. We're talking today about living life at cause rather than effect. And essentially what we're talking about is leaving the victim mentality behind. So this comes from a conversation I had with a client yesterday who has, as many of us, lived very deeply steeped in an experience of victimhood. And when we talk about victimhood, what we're talking about is powerlessness, that we are at the effect of all these external circumstances and situations that we have no control over. So we are abdicating our control or our power, our sovereignty, and allowing ourselves to fall into a place of powerlessness, being at the effect of our circumstances or our environments. And so here's the secret sauce that I've discovered to be able to move out of that space of disempowered victimhood. And that is to take on as a practice the notion that life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. So many of us experience life happening to us. And when that's the case, we're just pushed around, battered around by circumstance. Now, circumstance is what it is. It's not always to our liking. However, if we take the vantage point, if we adopt the vantage point that life is happening for me and through me rather than to me, if life is a benevolent partner, what if we were to take on life as a benevolent partner? Then in those moments of circumstance that would otherwise be crippling sometimes, we can find opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean that that happens right away necessarily. We can often be knocked down by circumstances, that where we just feel gutted, where we just feel wrecked, devastated. And in those moments, we get to experience the emotions that arise so that we can move that energy of those emotions. We don't need to fix it. We get to experience it. So our culture teaches us in so many ways to deny our experience, to just push through, to get over it, right? And we do get to grieve. We do get to experience what we're experiencing. And the trick here is to not make further stories about it. Because one of the things that is at the root of suffering is that we perpetuate our pain through the stories that we create. And what this comes back to is our narratives and the pervasive power of our narratives to shape our experience. So it was really quite extraordinary last night to have this conversation with this person where they were feeling very much at the effect of life in not a pleasant way. And there's a person in their lives in their life who has been made out to be like the evil stepmother kind of role. And this person is working to create a better environment, a better relationship, a workable relationship that preserves their interests, preserves their relationship with their father. And what they were saying is that they felt inauthentic, that they felt that they were not being true to themselves um, by by cultivating this relationship. And I said, well, you know, it looks like you have found a pathway to be able to maintain a relationship with your father and to create some peace in this situation. And what they were recognizing is that they had this whole narrative about this person as evil and horrible, and that narrative was serving to perpetuate the discontent in the family, and that it wasn't serving their intentions to maintain a relationship with their father. And so what they chose to do, what they came to, was that they needed to just let go of the past and let go of this narrative to then be an adult, because the narrative was largely generated when they were much younger. And it was the only defense that they had, being literally at the effect of adults that, where they didn't have the autonomy of an adult. So now that they do, they determined that they would let the past be past. And now, if a situation arises, to be able to address that from a place of centeredness, from a place of adulthood, and take things as they came and cultivate this relationship so that it would provide for their well-being on a lot of different levels. So by changing the narrative, they were able, it was interesting because they said that they felt that they were betraying themselves. And what we discovered by reshaping the narrative, same circumstances, is that indeed they were taking care of themselves, that they were in alignment with the intention to take care of themselves, and cultivating this relationship was part of that self-care. So another narrative that they had is that they don't do self-care. And we were able to say, well, that's actually not true. You know, here's where you're caring for yourself. Here's where you're caring for yourself. These are all actions that you took to take care of yourself. And they saw, oh my gosh, you know what? That's true. That's true. Before, they were looking at that they didn't exercise as much as they wanted to. But here they were looking at, well, I advocated for myself in this situation and that situation, and I took uncomfortable steps to preserve my health and improve my health. And I'm using these examples so that we can see how radically our narratives impact our experience. And so coming into this conversation feeling as if they were in a downward spiral, feeling as if they were lost, feeling as if they were out of alignment, they left the conversation feeling empowered. And instead of being a victim of circumstance, they were embracing a different story, and that shifted their experience. And going back around to this notion of creating a framework where empowerment follows from the framework rather than victimhood, is life is happening for me and through me. So these difficult people that show up in our lives, what if they're there as some of our greatest teachers? We may not like the lessons at all, but what if these people are there to provide us an opportunity to look more deeply or to look differently at things in our lives and at ourselves, such that we then have an opportunity to grow? So this was, I had a similar conversation with another client, it was pretty awesome, where they had been believing that they had issues with commitment. And that was part of a story that they had, is that they have issues with commitment. And we did some work with it, and this person was then able to recognize, oh my gosh, you know, I've committed to this organization that I work for decades. I've committed to the personal fitness training for years, and I've committed to this, that, and the other thing. And what they realized was, no, it's not true that they have issues with commitment. What they said was, I commit to the things I want to commit to, and I don't commit to the things that I don't. Oh, hi, Kimberly. So great to have you joining us. Kimberly says, I'm so thankful I showed up here this morning to hear this message. Good morning, lovely. I miss this space so much. Kimberly, so delightful to have you back here with us. So, yeah, when we're talking about empowerment, we are at a very challenging time in humanity's evolution, history, whatever. We're facing a lot of upheaval. We have climate and environmental challenges that are unprecedented in human history. We have political upheaval, we have all kinds of things that we could be very anxious and feel victimized by and feel powerless around. And it's very important in these moments, in this time, to find our place of personal sovereignty and power, to not give in to fear and anxiety. People who are afraid and anxious are very easy to control. When we have our center, when we are present, and when we are whole, we have a greater ability to think freely, to choose in alignment with our principles and values, and to be at cause rather than at effect. And again, and this is a practice, an ongoing practice for me anyway, to live into the assumption that life is happening for me and through me. So what that means is when things go sideways, while dealing with and addressing and experiencing the upset, the reactions, oftentimes the opportunity is in noticing our upset, to say, oh wow, okay, so something got triggered, what's going on, what can this lead me to look at that's going to enliven me, that's going to expand my awareness, that's going to take me to another level of consciousness and being. So it's often our upsets. And so I tell my clients, if it's coming up to heal, because we're ready. So it's an important thing to take the opportunities that life presents to us for growth and evolution. And when we come from the place that life is happening for me, then I can look for the opportunities. So opportunity rather than obstacle. You know, when we experience a challenge, we can be knocked down by it, or we can pick ourselves up and say, okay, so what's the opportunity here? What's the gift in this? And there's some turnaround time. You know, we have to brush off our scraped knees and elbows and then come back to, okay, so now what? Now what's the opportunity? So now more than ever, it's important for us to cultivate this resilience and this strength and this center. And honestly, I know no better way than to enlist life as a collaborator, as a benevolent collaborator, that we're not being punished, even though it feels that way sometimes, right? We're not being punished by the challenges that are presented. We may be being pushed a little to wake up to certain opportunities. So it's a very different perspective to take on, to recognize, or to allow yourself to move from a place that life is our benevolent partner, and that we're not being punished, We may be being challenged, but that life is serving us. And when we come from that place, there's a much greater ease. At least I experience a much greater ease, a deep lessening of anxiety, because I am cultivating this trust in life. Things are going to work out, not necessarily the way I like them, not necessarily the way I would predict or want. And what if all of it, even the tragedies, are serving us? So, what if the disruption that's occurring is occurring so that we collectively awaken to a new way of being, for example? What if the climate crisis is what we need to catalyze ourselves to wake up and create a different relationship with nature, the planet, and each other? It doesn't mean to sit back and do nothing, but in this time, this where we have these deep disruptions between political parties, and there are people that are coming from both sides to build bridges in ways that people didn't build bridges together before. So maybe when in a time when things are so fractious, it activates us to find better ways, where it just becomes intolerable to continue the way that we have. So we come up with new solutions. We come up with new ways to interact with one another. We connect on a deeper level. We discover one another's humanity and speak into that, for example. That's being at cause rather than effect. When we allow ourselves to be at effect, we allow ourselves to be controlled. We allow ourselves to be buffeted about by life's happenings, rather than to be able to stand and step into. A really great example of this was another conversation that I had with a client who's on a committee for community preservation. And someone had come with a proposal that violated a whole bunch of the principles of the Preservation Society. And rather than telling this person with the violations, oh, you violated this, you violated that, you violated the other thing, and this isn't going to pass, rather than doing that, which is this oppositional kind of engagement, if this was an opportunity, what opportunity might be there? What they instead decided to do was to invite the person with the proposal to join them collectively so that they could collectively generate a solution or an approach that was unified for everyone. And that's an opportunity that wouldn't have arisen without a different perspective. Good morning, Jennifer. So good to have you joining us this morning. Welcome. So, what we're talking about is taking back the reins of life by allowing a deeper partnership with life as a benevolent collaborator and leaving victimhood behind. So many people that I've spoken to have had really horrific challenges in life have been able to recognize that those challenges, and it may have been years and years before they could recognize this, but to recognize that those challenges were some of the greatest gifts they'd ever received, because those challenges shaped them, like going through the fire, like a crucible of transformation. And I can say, so much of my life was in deep, deep depression. And what I can say is that that was a crucible for me, because had I not had the depth of those emotions, had I not had the depth of that despair and come out of it, I wouldn't be able to support people in the way that I do. I wouldn't have the insights that I have. I wouldn't have the ability to be present with other people's pain. Having experienced pain of my own, I can be present to it without getting sucked into it. And I can recognize how much of our pain is self-inflicted through story. And so I invite all of us to step out of victimhood, to engage life as a benevolent collaborator, and to move into greater sovereignty and personal empowerment so that we can stand in the face of the challenges that life is bringing. So they're challenges to rise. So that's it for this morning. So glad to have all of you here with us. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it is such a privilege to have the opportunity to share morning musings with you on being human. And so until next time, so much love to you.